We now begin. We now begin with public meeting 6 of AI General Assembly 2020 first session. The executive board is on the course and the assembly is resumed. So we have one sub agenda left, which we have to discuss in the last public meeting for today. Uh, the last sub agenda in the three is the philosophical and cultural differences with regards to artificial intelligence, management sciences, and ethics. This is one sub agenda which is left. In addition, any delegate has the right to request to table a motion to add a sub agenda and get it approved. Therefore, I would like to know the views of the delegates. Whether delegates are interested to uh, discuss any other sub agenda. Person?
Mr.
Yes,
Abhivardhan,
Dave.
can I
Yes.
speak?
Please,
Yeah.
please,
So
please.
since the main agenda for today is assessing the scope and the liability and interpretability of the paralytic nature of AI ethics board in corporeal entities, I believe one sub agenda which could be raised here is why should corporate entities that are deploying AI tools have an AI ethics board to keep everything in check?
So the a motion can be tabled on the structure, utility, and purpose of AI ethics boards. If I'm correct.
I can't hear you. Your voice is a little
Okay,
cracking.
okay, is it better now?
No, 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 I still can't hear you. It's still cracking.
Yes.
All right. So, Dev, what Abhivardhan means is you could raise a motion and we could put it for voting. So, not a
Oh, okay.
problem.
Okay. So, under the main agenda for today, that is assessing the scope, liability, and interpretability of the paralytic nature of AI ethics board and corporeal entities, I would like to raise a sub agenda which deals with why should corporate entities that deploy AI, which are taking AI tools as a means for as a capital intensive method of working and are adopting machine learning in order to provide aid to their employees, should they set up an AI ethics board to keep all of these things in check? Like how there are human resources departments. Similarly, whether there should be an AI ethics board as well to keep everything in check is the motion that I would like to propose.
The motion is accepted. Let's have the vote now. Let's have the vote now. Everybody has to. Oh, let us have the vote. Okay, so the motion has been accepted for the purpose of voting. Those who are in favor, please vote ayes. Those who are not, please vote noes. So let me confirm. Okay, keep voting. Sanad Kashvi, Samar Shruti, Prantik Mrutpal. Are you voting with regards to this motion only? Oh, okay. Okay. So, okay, Shadis, please count the votes and finalize
So, it is
what's the
three,
result. I think it will
three,
be a
three,
divided vote.
three. It is 3 for 3 so far, I think.
Fine, really? Three. It is three. Okay. Okay, let us do the vote again. It's quite confusing. Just 1 minute. Okay. So, those who are in favor of the motion, please vote aye. Those who are not, please vote no. Please do it again. I know it's weird, but please do it again. We need to get it confirmed. Yes. Now you can count, Kshitij. From XXX where I've written, please count. Yeah.
So, 5 for 1, 4, ayes and
Has everybody voted?
four
Really?
noes. Four noes. Five ayes and three noes. Okay, six ayes and three noes.
Shruti, have you
Four
voted?
noes. Four,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
four. We have four noes.
Right. So what's the final tally? Yeah,
Six ayes, four noes, I think.
6:4. Um, okay. What's the total number of people? So 15 minus 1 minus, okay, 14 minus 13 minus 1 minus 1, 12 minus 1, 11. One person has not voted yet. Somebody. So 10 people actually are there, right, Kshitij? So it is like 6:5, like, or 6:4.
That was 6:4 when I counted. I'll count again. So six ayes.
Abhi, 10 delegates plus one president plus four of us. So 10 votes, 6:4.
The motion passes with a slim majority. Now we shall discuss the sub agenda. However, before we go ahead, we need to actually get it settled whether this motion will also pass. So, sub agenda with regards to philosophical and cultural differences with regards to AI management sciences and ethics. I would request the president to go ahead to move this so that a motion, a vote to pass this sub agenda for the purpose of discussion is also done.
Yes, let's go ahead.
Okay. As far as the president is concerned, the motion is approved for voting. Those who are in favor of discussing the motion, the sub-agenda, philosophical and cultural differences with regards to artificial intelligence, management sciences, and ethics, please vote aye. Those who are not in favor, please vote noes. Thank you so much. Kshitij, please record the votes.
Four. Five for ayes so far. Seven ayes. Eight ayes.
Wow, both motion, eight
Nine
eyes.
ayes.
Okay, 10 eyes. Will it go 10 eyes? Somebody, please complete it 10 eyes. So, Kshitij, is it 10 eyes? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Somebody is
No,
left.
nine.
Somebody is not voted. Mridutpal, vote, please. Yeah, thank you. Absolute majority. This motion successfully passes as well. Considering the order of disruption, we shall discuss the first sub-agenda for this public meeting, which is proposed by Dev Tejnani, which is, I think, on the viability and reasonability of why AI ethics boards should exist. So, yes, that actually has been mentioned in the draft report also. So, members who have voted to favor this have to absolutely discuss this. Those who have not favored, it is up to them if they wish to discuss this or not. Therefore, let us discuss this first. Aditi and Kshitij, you can take it forward. I am going to handle the timer. Thank you.
So which subtopic are we discussing first? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I'm saying, please start calling the names of the delegates and ask them to
Yes.
speak. I'll handle the timer. Thank you.
Miss Anurati, you can go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Talking about the importance and the need for an AI ethics board in incorporeal entities, my stance on this is that it is absolutely necessary to have an AI ethics board in place for the organizations and institutions that make use of the AI ethics board to increase their productivity or to increase their output. Um, it is necessary as these as these entities will basically be interacting with the rest of the humans, with rest of the environment, and it is essential that we have certain ethical restrictions, boundaries, or issues that are attended and addressed before we let them out and let them interact and do the work that we do today. uh, in every field we say let's in and especially taking into account the uh, sensitive fields, like which we may say is medical and uh, advocates to an extent. All of these fields uh, require a lot of trust. They require that the individuals who are using such services and products have complete faith in what they are buying. So having an ethical board in place for the AI will not only make sure of these concerns, but will also make sure that we have that will somewhat limit the interaction, and will also by chance make sure that things there will not be repercussions. It is an important point of discussion that with the advancement of AI, we need to have a system in place. Not only should businesses but also government institutions should have these AI ethics board in place, and the scope of such should not be limited to one actor but everyone involved in this sphere. Uh, Even when all the aspects are taken care of, there will still be a lot of puzzling questions about the ethical nature. Something like will the robots or the corporeal entities be able to understand and adapt to the human reasoning? How long will this process? Will the deep learning take? How long will it take? uh, we expect the AI to have a psychological and will be especially in when it comes to psychiatry and psychotherapy, we will need, if we need them in those aspects, how will they uh, perform under such fields? I think these questions are very important, and only when we have boards, regulatory body in place, will we be able to a- answer them one by one and in the most efficient way. That's all.
All right. Thank you for that, Anurati. I request anybody has any point of information or anything to add to Anurati, what Anurati said. All right. Uh, Abhyudan, if you could reset the timer, please. Mr. Dev Tejani, you can speak next, please.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Dev. Perfectly audible.
Okay. So, with regards to the sub agenda that I have raised today, it is imperative to understand the role of corporations and how they're addressing the various ethical dilemmas when it comes to AI, and how it is imperative for firms to establish a proper ethical board, because the world is seeing innumerable advances when it comes to artificial intelligence. There are innumerable new applications in the finance sector, in the defense sector, in the health sector, in the criminal justice system, the education system, and among other areas. Now, algorithms are improving spell checkers, voice recognition systems, ad targeting, fraud detection. Basically, algorithmic analysis is doing everything. Right now, the conference is also possible because of an algorithm, because the algorithms are designed in such a way that it is helping us. The softwares are inculcated in such a way that is helping us to connect together. And however, there are innumerable concerns regarding the ethical values which go into the basic human values. Ethicists, a number of ethicists, as I was researching, I came across a report wherein a number of ethicists worry about the lack of transparency, poor accountability, unfairness, and bias in these automated tools. With millions of lines of codes in each application, it is highly difficult in order to comprehend what values are inculcated in what softwares and how algorithms actually reach decisions. Now, I would like to cite an example here. Imagine in the near future, a bank uses a machine learning algorithm, and this algorithm recommends mortgage applications for approval. Now, a rejected applicant brings a lawsuit against the bank alleging that the algorithm is specifically discriminating racially against mortgage applicants. Now, the bank replies that this is highly impossible since the algorithm is deliberately blinded to the race of the applicants. Now, indeed, that part of the bank's rationale for implementing that was the part of the bank's rationale for implementing the system. However, no one actually knows where the problems go wrong. Now, as we are pushing the boundaries of innovation and how technology is increasingly becoming a digital sovereign, which can be deemed to be regarded as something that is setting the rules of the world at the moment, the nature of the code and their corporate practices and the terms of service, when a company is designing a machine or a machine learning algorithm, needs to be taken into serious consideration. So, what I believe is, in order to ensure that AI ethics are taken seriously, a corporation needs to hire ethicists who work with corporate decision makers and software developers. So, what these ethicists could do is they could sit down with corporate decision makers in the firm, let's say people from the HR departments of various organizations and the software developers who could code the machines need to sit down together. They need to develop a code of ethics which could lay out various issues that will be handled. Apart from that, an AI review board needs to also address these corporate ethical issues which may arise, because considering the fact that firms are now shifting resources from being a labor intensive to capital intensive, and even in the legal profession, a lot of new e-filing options have been available, and firms are slowly adopting themselves to this ecosystem. Therefore, it is highly essential that an AI review board is also set up by an organization which could regularly address these ethical questions and issues that may arise. Apart from that, an AI audit trail should also be made, which could show the various coding decisions that have been made by the committee consisting of the ethicists who work with the corporate decision makers and software developers. Apart from that, it is imperative for firms to implement AI training programs for their staff in order to operationalize the ethical considerations in their daily work and understand their insights on what difficulties they may be facing. And lastly, what I would like to say is this could provide a remediation when AI solutions could probably inflict harm or damage on the people or organization. That's it. Thank you.
Well, that was interesting. Thank you for that, Dave. If anybody has any point of information or anything to any questions for Dave, please. Okay, all right. Abhiratan, I think you can reset the timer, please. Ms. Kashvi Shetty, you can speak next.
Okay. Yes. So, the need for ethical boards in corporate entities is no, like, this is something that like any entity right now, because of the whole ethical discourse that is going on, even users are aware that AI systems are something which are not that reliable, because of which tech companies have become more embrace ethical self scrutiny and establish ethical boards, because this is something that caters to their interests as well. But the question is, are they actually forming these boards to be accountable? Are they holding them in a meaningful way, or is it just a practice of ethics washing? So ethics washing, as in that they're just pretending to have an ethics board, but actually it is not like how the agenda for today being that it's a paralytic nature of their ethics board, because of which it is not enough to create an environment where there is actually public accountability. Now this system is because there could be at the end of the day, these entities have to cater to their interests. They want to further their profit interests. They want to further their company's objectives or goals, because of which these ethic boards, though are there, are not functional in a proper manner. Like the most recent example of Google's ethic board, which merely I think functioned for a week, and then they had to take it down because a lot of comments of the members in the group, like made it difficult for them to survive. Like all the like there was a huge public outcry. One of the members said something against a trans organization, and such things, that they are the members of the committee weren't something that uh, created or promoted those values which that board was made for. It was an ethical, like ethics board. Now this brings to like the point that how important is inclusion in when you're creating such a board. So inclusion is very important to prevent bias. There need to be independent committees of these, even in the entities, like the private entities need to make sure that the members that they're hiring are someone who are from diverse backgrounds, from diverse natures, because of which, like, if there is certain, like, AI system problems or ethics required in certain systems, if they were from diverse backgrounds, they could have different opinions as well. They could even assess the loopholes from their perspectives. This would not only like give public confidence, but at the same time also prove very beneficial for the development and the assessment systems that were to be carried out. So definitely there is a need of inclusion in these committee boards. Secondly, the regulatory framework must include ex ante as well as ex post guidelines. So the ex ante being the assessing functions which need to be done, the impact assessments or developing, progressing, and ex post, like even in the case of like if there is a damage, then how it should be more user centric, of how the users can approach, how the users must go about it. So these are how they're actually going to able to achieve ethical values. This is the this will be leading to the actual implementation of ethical values, and not just forming a board and thinking that ethical values will be achieved. Lastly, also definitely there is a point that there has to be an economic balance to this perspective as well. At the end of the day, the companies also need an incentive, because of which the precautionary principle will apply differently for all companies. Suppose if they are something that dealing with critical infrastructures, they have to maintain a much more higher level of like assessments and precautionary measures, whereas a little less would not have that means to maintain that high level of assessments. So when even when the Indians, like the India PDP bill has significant data fiduciaries, for this very purpose, that these data fiduciaries have a much more higher amount of burden on them. And another method that is also been coming up is a certification method, like how we have a certification for foods. So that way, if there are certain ethical standards and the companies are certified for this will create a more transparent structure for the companies to have an incentive to get these certifications, and the public could see, okay, like these certifications are there, that means parameters have been met. But for this also to be successful, there is a very important need of accountable systems to be there in any case. So that's why an accountability and transparency mechanism is on which even these ethical boards will sustain in future. Thank you. That would be my stand on this agenda.
Thank you for that, Sakshi.
Thank
If
you so
anybody
much.
has, all right, Abhivardan, please take it ahead.
No issues, no issues. Thank you so much, Kashmir. So, as a session consultant, I exercise my right to question. My right to question is exercised as follows. So, My question is in this way. When we say inclusivity and we need to ensure inclusivity, is this an issue of equality of opportunity or is this the issue of equality of outcome?
Okay. So inclusivity would it would actually have it would have both perspectives. Like equality of opportunity is something that if a company is actually giving opportunity to a diverse nature of groups, they show it. Like how nowadays if companies give disabled people an opportunity, they go out to like brand it to
Yes,
use it as a marketing strategy. So this is something that is showing the people, okay, they're sensitive towards such people, as well as helping them getting a marketing strategy. And equality outcome in the
right.
sense that the thing that I explained, like assessments, there have to be diverse opinions. When you have just one set of like a mindset, like if I just have people who think that okay, this is I am like, we have to maintain privacy but economic interest is like superior, or any kind of like they're just from one background, then they wouldn't be able to assess the challenges from different perspectives, because of which we need people from various perspectives, especially for something like ethics, which can be very subjective from people to people. That's why to maintain a standard, we have to see even conflicting or diverse opinions.
Correct. So my question actually was in this perspective that when we say equality of opportunity, it simply means that whether it is black, white, or whosoever, like any ethnic minority or whatever the person might be, woman, transgender, whosoever they are, even I would say nationality also has a case here because you know NRIs, for example, or Chinese Americans and all that. Because I think AI ethics boards have some examples in the US a lot. So, for example, you have those inclusivity considerations. You try to give an equality of opportunity that, okay, this much people at least participate in the board. They must be represented. There must be an additional committee, something like that. I'm just giving you a hypothetical scenario so as to understand in which direction should we take this formal debate. That's it. Yes, we try to do it. However, there can be circumstances, and it is in full support with inclusivity, but only in consideration with realities as well. That when we say yes, equality of opportunity, it can also happen that sometimes the outcomes are not tangibly coming. Means equality of opportunity sometimes may not give equality of outcome for everybody. So, in what case, in that case, what can be done, and which is better than equality of opportunity or equality outcome, because inclusivity itself has to take one choice primarily and then it can go for the latter. So that's, I'm just is asking in a hypothetical sense. So what do you think? Yes.
In the sense, yeah, is your question like suppose if you are giving how we have like minorities quota, but then maybe at sometimes it's not that beneficial because it is not actually equality, like it's not providing for the economic incentive. Is that your question?
uh, Near to it, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I think this is something that corporations will will they this is something that they will maintain. They at the end of the day they are not governments. They don't have to show that kind of the policy that we are doing this. If they are entities, they will maintain that their economic incentive is maintained. If they feel like the economic incentive is not being upheld to, probably they will get it down. But what I meant by inclusion is like having a diversity, but not in the sense that, there should be a particular percentage. Like even if there is, and if it doesn't meet to their financial incentives, I don't think anything would mandate them to continue that, because at the end of the day, they are entities and profit will be superior for them.
Right. So let's take this discussion forward. I think after Kashvi is Mridutpal. So Mridutpal, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Yes. So I don't want to go into the details as to whether corporeal entities should have AI ethics boards or not. But I would because I think they should have, because I would like to explain this with a hypothetical scenario, and I don't want to get into the company matters because or company laws, because I think there are people here who know it better than me. But I would like to bring up a scenario from a criminal law point of view. Like, and I remember that Anurati ma'am, she referred to the application of artificial intelligence in psychology. So, in that sense, if there is a psychiatric artificial intelligence system which perhaps aids or perhaps directly counsels a patient and understands that this particular patient, let's call him person A, this particular person A has suffered from incessant child abuse and has suffered discrimination as well, be it racism, be it anything. He has suffered from discrimination as well, and somewhere the only closure that he can get is by perhaps doling out the same suffering that he has incurred to some other person. Perhaps this person might be cured through means of murdering someone else. And the artificial intelligence system interprets that, reads that well. And since this intelligence system has been designed, its algorithm is to achieve efficient curing of the patients, it does something which is unorthodox in psychology. Let's just say like psychological driving. That is a very unorthodox maneuver that psychologists of today don't actually use. Now, this artificial intelligence system, he drives this person A into committing a murder in order for this person A to be cured through the means of psychological driving. And that I don't know whether it would obviously it is duress, but I don't know whether it would be considered as undue influence or coercion. Whichever it may be, it is wrong, it is immoral, and it is illegal. So in that case, I think there should be ethics boards in order to inhibit such occurrences. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mridutpal. Any point of information to Mridutpal? Okay, no point of information. Let's go ahead to Mr. Prakhar. So, Mr. Prakhar, you have 5 minutes. You can go ahead. Yes.
Thanks, Abhivardhan. Good afternoon, everyone. Mm, so, my fellow delegates have already given various examples as to what is happening across the globe with regard to AI ethics board. The most important problem is the fundamental weakness is they lack transparency. Uh, Nobody other than the company knows who is going to be the member, what their suggestions are, how much it is considered, and how is it implemented, whether it is just advisory or it will be complied with. So nobody other than the respective companies like Google or Microsoft knows. So this rather than a ethical issue which this ethics board is solving, it might also look like it is just a puppet to evade the question of accountability, to escape accountability. Because if anything wrong happens, the companies might say that we already took all the precautions. We had the ethics board. We complied with all the ethical standards, and still, if something wrong happens, we are not accountable. We are and therefore the accountability and transparency needs to be there in the ethics board. Uh, for this, that's why the ethics board is needed. The scope of ethics boards can be from guiding the leadership and to establish policies and procedures regarding AI. It may extend to examining the proposals for AI research, and maybe to audit them and to handle the and to handle any complaints regarding the use of AI. These all could be the functions of AI board. There may We can see many benefits of AI board, which could be it can establish trust in public trust, and it may also develop trust in the employees who are working towards AI. Public consultation can be done to develop the ethical framework, which will ultimately lead to the complying with public interest. Also, self-regulation prepares the company for possible future AI regulations, which might be imposed by the government maybe in a future date. These are the benefits. However, there are various challenges as well, because this field of technology and AI is very rapidly evolving field, and this maintaining this board and passing each and every decision through this board will be costly and will be time inefficient. Also, lack of transparency may lead to ineffective public accountability, and there is a risk of shifting of burden, and also finding appropriate members who has good understanding of both AI technology, of business, of human resources, of ethics, philosophy. So people from all background needs to be here, and that was the main issue in the case of Google. So these are the challenges, and also it goes against the natural justice concept, which says that one cannot be judge of one's own cause, and these private big companies, they treat them and they consider them as a very friendly and very uh, mm, very good people who are trying to help the humanity and to develop a culture which is good for all, which might not be the case, and therefore uh, above this ethical board that companies are establishing, there should be something or some organization or some structure which holds them responsible. And this can be like I propose a three-tier structure which can be created, which has a committee at a departmental level, an oversight committee at a organizational level, and maybe a regulatory body at the level of government. And all these together may work and plan some good ethical standards, and new legislations can be drafted to fill the gaps. And all these needs to be done in collaboration with big tech companies, because they only are the people who have the data, who have all the information and the resources, and forming such regulations or boards without the collaboration of tech companies makes it useless. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Any point of information or any questions that the speakers may have for Mr. Prafar? All right. Well, in that case, Mr. Dev Tejani, you can speak next, please. Mr. Dev Tejani?
Yes, Mr. Shitich.
Yeah, you can speak next, please. If you could hold on for a moment, we could just start the timer.
I already spoke regarding this agenda.
All right, all right, all right.
Yeah.
Mr. Prantik, in that case, Mr. Prantik Mukherjee is next.
Thank you, Kshitij.
Yeah, Prantik, if you could hold on for a moment, I'll try to start the timer, please.
Okay, sure.
Aditi, are you present?
Yes, yes, I'll just add, I'll present it. Just give me a minute.
Sure. Yes, Mr. Prantik, you can start speaking, please.
Yes, sure. So if we talk about AI ethics in like AI ethics in corporate boards, so first of all, you have to understand. First of all, you have to understand that there are many leadership roles and many parties which are involved in maintaining AI ethics, maintaining this AI ethics. So like the CEO, CRO, CCO, and CFO have leadership roles across the first three dimensions, while the fourth dimension relies on leadership from politicians, regulatory agencies, and other policy-making bodies. But adequate compliance is required from the corporate entities too. So if we like talk about, then AI ethics is a sweeping endeavor with many moving parts. At the same time, technology aside, the initial approach should follow a similar path as other ethics and compliance programs, including the if we talk about this, first of all, is to start at the top. So if we talk about start at the top, then the boards and the board of directors and senior management, like they actually set the tone for any of the ethics and compliance program, and they should inform the top leadership of the use of AI tools across the organization and how AI presents opportunity and risk to the organization. And then they should review and what like review and whenever necessary expand the on the enterprises existing policies, procedures, and standards to address AI ethics as a key priority to the organization. And second, we can talk about clearly communicating your intentions. So the ethical constructs and the mechanisms protect the organization while addressing risks associated with the use of data and technology. So to begin with, consider developing an AI code of conduct for data scientists and other data professionals while setting up channels for escalating issues. Also consider establishing principles for the use of AI among management, employees, investors, and customers as applicable to the organization. Thirdly, we can talk about the risk assessments and all. So AI ethics is as much about understanding the risks as it is about establishing a process for avoiding them. So we should be ever clear what kind of AI solution we are building and with whom we are building it actually. And we have to identify the processes in the AI life cycle and that would negatively impact stakeholders, like order them by priority and allocate resources to mitigate the risks. Then we can talk about the like uh, we should let the product teams know what to look for in monitoring solutions for AI ethics. So one way is to embed ethical use of data and technology considerations in IT architecture design, and another is to design the control structures and embed them into AI-enabled solutions. And last but not the least, we should put up guardrails. So talking about this, the organization should consider proactively establishing guardrails to guide, monitor, and and assess how AI is used by the organization, employees, vendors, and customers. Such guardrails may either be technical or organizational akin to internal controls. So, so if for example, if so for example, technical guardrail is a control framework embedded within the design of an AI solution that prevents specific actions from being completed. So another technical guardrail example is the use of explainable and interpretable AI, while where the decision making behind AI-enabled solution is both transparent and explainable. So So, if we consider the impact of emerging AI ethics related issues on existing and as yet implemented AI solutions, so such a panel should actually have a accountability and a clear charter to drive change and influence decisions across the organization. So, it is very it is very easy to get caught up with the complexity of AI, but if you start from the basics and can create a near-term impact while offering maximum room to learn as you go, and also enforce the reverse engineering part of it, so it might actually prove to be very fruitful and may avoid a lot of complexities in the upcoming future. And over time, the organization can integrate the finer nuances of AI ethics as its implications for the organization, and stakeholders alike become known. Thank you.
All right. So, any point of information or any questions from Mr. Mukherjee? All right. Well, in that case, Mr. Samar Rajput was supposed to speak next. He has decided to pass the sub agenda. I would now request Mr. Sanat Arora to speak next, please.
Well, my stance on ethics board set up by corporates is quite contrary to what most delegates have said. I believe that the ethics board set up by corporates are just an eyewash for the stakeholder for the public so that they can trust them, and essentially they amount to no value at all. To support my argument, I have some empirical evidence. In 2019, Google made an ethics board which was comprised of right-wing members. Many of them had also argued for anti-LGBTQ laws, because of which they received major backlash, and eventually they had to repeal the ethics board. Things are equally discouraging when considering how other companies act. For example, the ethics board in IBM offers similar evidence. The company has been vocal about its ethical efforts in AI, and in 2018 it created an ethically diverse data set to help remove racial bias from the facial recognition system. Reports from the Intercept have detailed how, as recently as 2016, the company's surveillance tech was used by the police forces in the Philippines, where thousands have been killed in extrajudicial executions as part of the brutal war on drugs. And trust in ethical algorithms doesn't stop companies from assisting deeply unethical issues. These problems don't mean AI ethics boards should be done away with completely. There are hard problems, and discussing the best practices for algorithmic systems raises awareness for the potential flaws. With so much expertise working for big companies, it would be foolish to shut these firms out of the conversations. But if we are to believe that these projects will be enough to keep the society from most harmful effects of new technologies, that is certainly not the case. Now we're all aware of the Cambridge Analytica case, and how in 2019 Facebook was charged by the US government for allowing customers to target ads at users based on their ethnicity. So basically, to AI ethics boards won't really amount to much, because all of the decisions taken by them uh, won't really be mandatory. Moreover, the companies would always put the need for making profit first. So even if certain practices of the company are contrary to the AI ethics code, they just let it happen. So I'm not saying that we should completely completely do away with AI ethics code, but government needs to intervene over here with large scale legislation, because if a company in Silicon Valley makes some decision, the effects of it are felt worldwide, and it is the it is an obligation upon the government of the particular country to protect its citizens from any exploitation which has been incurred by the corporates of Silicon Valley. So And I believe that an independent ethics commission for each and every country should be set up, which would analyze the AI practices, which would uh, apply regulation technology and decipher the algorithms which are being used by these corporates, and penalize those corporates if they are in violation of any laws of the country, or if they are found or if concrete evidence is found of them that they are manipulating citizens in any form or way possible. That's it from my side. Thank you.
All right. If there is any point of information or questions for Mr. Sanat Arora from any of the speakers. Okay, all right. Well, in that case, Ms. Shruti Somya, you could speak next. Mr. Sanat Arora, if you could mute your mic, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Shruti
Okay.
Somya, you can speak next.
Thank you. Ethics. Okay, so ethics is the discipline dealing with what is good and bad, and with moral duty and obligations, as well as the principle of conduct governing an individual or a group. Now, why we need ethics? We need to always be the one to determine the behavior of artificial intelligence. Of course, with the options like self-learning, we don't want to slow down its process of development, as that would beat the entire purpose of it. We need to have ethics built into the idea of why a certain piece of technology equipped with AI is being developed. We need to monitor the outcome of that specific piece of technology in order to fully understand its behavior and make sure that it's not violating our moral compass. Now, what will AI ethics board do? The function of AI ethics board within an organization is to provide thought leadership and guidance on how the organization researches and exploits AI technology and associated data. This raises the fundamental question of whether a separate board is necessary, or instead whether the existing framework, such as the compliance office, is enough. Like an example of AI ethics board is Lucid AI, a small AI company based in Texas with around 10 employees, provides a casual reasoning platform. It announced its internal AI ethics board in the following way: like each step forward for AI is a step into the uncharted territory. That's why we made it. That's why they made it the mission to ask the complicated question and that don't have easy answers. Now, contemporary sensitivities to bias are growing, and this will increase with the proliferation of artificial intelligence. Every organization can create a strong internal governance framework to address how they design and implement AI. Now, establishing this level of ethical governance is critical in helping executives to mitigate a downside risk, because addressing AI bias can be extremely complex. Data scientists and software engineers have biases just like everyone else, and when they allow these biases to creep into algorithms or the data set used to train them, however unintentionally, it can leave those subject to the AI feeling like they have been treated unfairly. An ethic committee can help to not only maintain an organization's value based intention, but can increase the transparency into how they use AI. Even when it's addressed, AI bias can uh, still be maddening and frustrating for end users, and more companies deploying AI today are subjecting people to it without giving them much agencies in the process. Now, organizations that chooses to establish an ethics committee aren't simply addressing human bias, statistical bias, and fairness. Their scope of concern is typically much more wider. On the like, this is the one aspect. Now, the other hand, like major tech corporations have launched AI ethics board that not only lack diversity but sometimes include powerful people with interests that don't align with their ethics mission. This result is what someone see as a systematic failure to take AI ethics concerns seriously despite widespread evidence that algorithm, face recognition, machine learning, and other automated systems replicate and amplify biases and discriminatory practice. Exxon, the corporation that manufactures tasers, launched an AI ethics board last year. While its makeup is racially diverse, it includes a number of leaders from law enforcement and the sector that has faced growing scrutiny over how it uses Exxon products in discriminatory and fatal way. It is great to see companies, organizations, and researchers working to create ethical framework for AI. The tech industry is experiencing growing pains in the area. Figuring out how to do this right is challenging and will take time and uh, it will take time and a lot of framework is required. It is an opportunity and will definitely take time to work upon the issue, and forming a policy and regulation in collaboration with companies much required. That's all. Thank you.
So thank you for that, Shruti. Any point of information or anything to add if any others have? All right. So in that case, Mr. Time Mega, you can speak next, please.
Sure. As we know, intelligence is rapidly having a dramatic impact in all industries. As a result of this influx of technology, board members have a responsibility to understand just how AI impacts their specific companies, as well as the accompanying risks that may be involved with this new technology. AI has become a highly important to do for boards today to assure compliance with their fiduciary duties of loyalty and care. So, industry having the most importance of AI in industry. So, it is hard to argue with the notion that the future of AI is now. As AI search engine has been improved dramatically, searchers can searchers can now typically find an answer to questions from a few random words. The newest technology will be capable telling us what questions we should be asking. So therefore the boards may some consider some points. I believe that with the increase of presence of AI and the enthusiasm about its potential value, there exists a basic fear among many that human usefulness may at some point be eliminated, and stretching a bit with the inspirations of science fiction movies that mankind will be overtaken by AI machines. There's no doubt that AI has already made many jobs. Example, automated phone systems with voice recognition software replacing some customer service operation. There are always increasing cybersecurity risks associated with AI related to data privacy also. So second point is, in addition, as computer and machines steadily evolve in deeper and deeper learning, it may be become increasingly difficult to discern how massive amounts of unreliable data may be analyzed through AI. Additionally, it seems that almost daily there is a new headlines about companies being hacked. Thus, there are important concerns about privacy and protection of data in AI universe. Thank you. So this is my 100 points regarding this. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Time Mega. Any point of information or any additions to Mr. Time Mega's speech, if anybody, if any of the delegates? All right. So, exercising my right as a session consultant, I would like to add to something what all of you have said or Mr. Sainega has said, and the previous speakers have said, is until and unless I think we achieve artificial general intelligence, that is AGI, we already have artificial intelligence, what the current what currently artificial intelligence is basically algorithms that are designed by humans, which are taking decisions based on those based on the data that is fed to it. So I think why we need the reason that we need artificial intelligence boards or ethics boards for artificial intelligence is to govern to ensure that this data that is being fed to the machine is really not racially biased, or there is not there is nothing that is wrong with it. And in fact, I recently wrote a very interesting piece on this, where algorithms were taking a decision on how students should be given marks, or how students should be awarded marks, which was recently used by educational organizations. So I think, in fact, that is a very interesting piece that I wrote on, and I, in fact, also told why artificial intelligence boards are very necessary for today's companies, because we are already being, there is artificial intelligence is already around us, and algorithms already around us, and that is why they need to be ethically used. So moving ahead, Beavergan, if you're present and you could guide us.
Yes. Thank you so much, Shitij. I would like to request Mr. President to give his final remarks on the sub-agenda. Thank you. Kshitij, please connect with Mr. President, see if he's available. Thank you.
Sure, I'll do that. Sure, I'll do that.
It seems that Mr. President is not audible. Um, okay, we have already decided and we have already passed the motion to discuss the last sub-agenda of the day for the agenda 3. I reiterate that agenda to you, sub-agenda by the way, which is philosophical and cultural differences with regards to AI management sciences and ethics. So we are up for the last sub-agenda of the day. I would request a delegate to table the motion. Sorry, not request a delegate to table the motion. I would request the session consultants to go ahead. Meanwhile, please be focused on the report. I think it's really going good. So I think the first speaker will be Anurati. Kshitij, you can begin now. Yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Anurati, you can begin with your speech now, please.
Okay, thank you. So the subtopic, which is the philosophical and cultural differences with regards to AI management, sciences, and ethics. So the importance of a global conversation about the social impacts and the ethics of AI has appeared in all industries and the government reports as well. So it is only of prime importance that we approach this topic. For ethics, we must understand that culture. We must understand culture and understand that different societies have unique ethical vocabularies, understanding, and expectations. The words fairness and privacy mean different things in different places, and it does not mean that these the values of these will be equal. So ethics isn't something that is just for philosophers, but it is something that we do, and it requires our attention, it requires our action, and it requires our engagement. Now, some of the aspects that we can see with relation to this are the fact that there will be regional differences which will exist. Now, AI will also exacerbate social inequality, as we have previously mentioned, by some of my delegates have previously mentioned, and also that there is the need for further action. So the approach to this is that we have to start from the bottom. We have to recognize the nitty-gritties of how different societies and how different cultures behave, and how their acceptance to and what is their acceptance to different cultures. This will obviously bring out questions that like society and technology is what hopes and fears drive the technology we choose to develop, and how we accept and reject and use these technologies around us. Therefore, when a society develops a technology, it does so not because it does so because it has attained the technological mastery and know-how of the subject. Um, and so there are coming on to the other questions which will arise, which I would like to address, is that um, there will be the unanswered questions about different. I'm sorry, there will be the question of who is the AI made for? So, this is an important question when it comes to talking about the cultural and social differences, as it is very important to take into consideration who we are making the AI for. Like there are certain areas of the world which still do not have access to basic internet. So they are going to be very reluctant. They are going to have limited resources to access this technology. The next question which also comes is how will this AI be used? So again, the cultural aspect which comes into play is that uh, how today how today a person sitting in India, or a person in an Asian country, let's say, might not make use or need AI in the same way that a person maybe sitting in the other part of the world would. So there are differences when it comes to boundaries, also differences when it comes to cultures. Um, also there are examples there are examples which I've come across in my research, which I'd like to state is there as Saudi Arabia does not have this has this fact that women are not allowed to step out of I need to have a male company with them. So there have been a study of using an application which was used to make sure that the woman of the family or whatever is not going alone and has a male accomplice. So this use of the technology over here might not be something that is culturally or socially accepted, or might differ for the rest of the countries. So technology is supposed to enter a world that is already living, and that is built on history, and that is shaped by economic and political structures. Uh, so understanding this, we have to also bring about answer some difficult questions about language, and how AI will will adhere or will solve these things. That's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Anurati. If anybody has any point of information or anything else to add.
Yeah, just as a matter of a fact, which I wanted to bring it to Anurati, that in 2019, just for a matter of fact, not to sort of this thing on your research, that Saudi Arabia now allows women to travel without male guardian. Huh?
Okay, I'm sorry. Then I'm
No,
confused.
so they had this thing, but now since 2019, they passed
Okay.
a new this thing, resolution and a law, including women to drive, because those were
Hmm.
two, three
Yes.
things which, as a part of the society, was there. Thankfully, that's gone. But yeah, I from a fact perspective, I completely agree with you that yeah, those are issues of the AI. If that's something which is going to be built on the basis of culture, yes, as an example, definitely, because there are many other such cultures which we will face around specifically at the time of programming the AIs. So that's the only point. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Notami. Um, the next speaker is Mr. Dev Tejani. Mr. Dev Tejani has waived his right to speak. So the next speaker will be Ms. Kashvi Shetty. Ms. Kashvi Shetty, you can go ahead with your speech, please.
Okay. So, when we talk about philosophical and cultural differences with respect to the AI management, so this is definitely an important point when we talk because AI systems and entities that work with a global reach, they will have to take into consideration different values, different cultures that they will operate in, or the data that they are using. So basically, a structure of like cross-cultural cooperation will be essential for the for success of the ethics and governance initiatives. By cross-cultural cooperation, I mean groups from different cultures and nations working together and ensuring that AI is developed and deployed in such a way in socially beneficial ways. So this becomes more important considering that now if AI has to AI works on a lot of data systems. So if it has to be if it is taken into consideration data systems where there is a system of like a notion of western cultures of ethics versus eastern cultures of ethics, then this will not lead to a much developed growth. Like right now what we see currently, like realistically speaking, a lot of the American companies are the ones that have the large hold on data, the ones who are using AI also a lot. Like companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon are all able to use large quantities of data because it is available for them, and plus like AI is is much used there. Now in generally, if such power dynamics does exist, then how do we value other cultures or other identities? Like in the sense, there's a lot of saying that China uses facial technologies. They surveil their people. There's a lot of surveillance on their people. But does that mean that they don't value privacy or they do not want to cooperate on an international level? Like the Beijing principles and even like China on various conferences has said that they also believe that AI should be for the benefit of all humankind, respect to human privacy and dignity. Definitely, they do certain actions which could not be justified, but that does not mean that the Eastern nations would not be as you know would not take that initiative towards an open collaboration or towards the principle of ethics, or to say that Western countries have a higher hold over ethics would not be the correct approach. For the only thing that there has to be an environment where all the cultures and all the ideologies are kind of valued, if not kept at the same level but valued. Like even for the simple example, like a lot of AI related, because AI is an emerging topic, a lot of conferences do happen around that area. Now a lot of conferences are held in USA or in China. USA, due to like its ties to the AI ethics and society as well. So why not on the other developing nations? Though recently there was a conference that was going to be held in Ethiopia. So that is definitely something, it was one of the first third tier countries where an AI conference was held. Not to say that this in itself would lead to respecting other cultures, but it is a start, and we need to know other cultures and know what is their purpose of using the AI. Like like an example was given about UAE, but actually UAE has such an open has a policy, like an open policy for the big data. And according to like the World Competitive Yearbook, also UAE ranks like fifth in the use of big data and analytics and the internet penetration. So this is because like they have an initiative. They've actually carried on a whole open data mechanism to help like systems and governments AI systems and all of these to be developed. Definitely, there are challenges which can be, the secondary misuse of this data and a degradation of individuals' rights. But these are something that, if there was an international cooperation level, if these challenges are discussed internationally, then there could be a more effective solution that we could come to. And even like taking into consideration that why are these countries using the AI, like previously I've given an example of Africa, why are they using AI? So like, they, for them, a main focus is their collective rights. So this is something that the countries need to help each other. They need to help the developing countries to build capabilities and have a more inclusive approach towards AI when they are building, because at the end of the day, AI is something that will only build more when there is more cooperation, because we do not want an AI which is biased, in the sense that if an AI had to take a decision, now that AI is so revolved around Western country ideologies, or if it had data about genocides, for example, that how genocides had occurred, so maybe it would value human life from someone from Cambodia or Rwanda less. And they would, if they had a decision about killing someone from US or killing someone from Rwanda, like killing maybe one person from US or two people from Rwanda, they would choose the US person because of the data that it has, which is not that inclusive, or which is not that cooperative. So the countries have to take an initiative to become, like, to have a more cooperative atmosphere, and to get a little step ahead from their differences, and move to an international building structure. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank.
Thank you, Ashley. As a session consultant, I would like to exercise my right to question. So my question is as follows. You've actually made a point on issue of uh, cooperation. Uh, so on that, is it tenable to affirm that when we have to address cultural and aesthetic issues with regards to management and AI, because AI ethics has its philosophical roots from management sciences and mathematics, for that matter. Alan Turing, Steve Jobs, all those. Can it be reasonable to affirm to an extent that the cultural embodiment, which can be ethnocentric of a particular country or a particular set of regions, because you rightly pointed out that a person from Rwanda might not get the better one as the person from the America or from America. So that problem is there. So can we say that some extent of ethnocentrism is also responsible when it comes to utilization of AI ethics and technology? What is your take?
um yes, definitely. Like, see, to a certain extent, you also need to know nature centric cultures. Like, suppose if I have to now, if I had a system that had to work for, if I take the example of education and I had to think about India and I had to think about US, I did need Indian perspective to a certain extent, because India right now, the problem is digital divide. I can't think about like personalized education when I have like so much digital divide. So I'm not saying we don't need to take into consideration like your national perspectives. You have to take into consideration. Should I continue, or should I
Yes, you
continue,
can.
or
Yes, you can.
yeah?
You can, please.
Yeah, so I'm not saying like we shouldn't take into consideration the national perspectives, because that is something important to a nation and will always be. But by cooperation, like the states, like the nations should come together to understand each other's ideologies and to cooperate to an extent, and not, yeah, like not have ethnocentric approaches to not understand that nation's perspective. Like, even when we say that China is surveilling, I do understand that it is oppressive, it is not right, but there is a like an approach that we have to have of still understanding their ideology and maybe coming up to a better way which is beneficial for both the countries, so that conflict will be there. But what is the approach that we have to take the approach which seems more realistic and at least understand each other's values.
Okay, thank you so much. That's quite understandable. Um well, actually, for that matter, we can also say that the determinacy of the ideas and practical implementation will also matter. Wonderful. So let's go ahead with the next speaker. Yes, Kshitij, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Dev Tejani and Mr. Mridupal Bhattacharya have decided to pass the current agenda. So the next speaker is Mr. Prakhar Prakash.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Prakhar Prakash, you can go ahead with your
Yeah,
speech.
hello. Good afternoon. Uh, so we are talking about artificial intelligence. That means we are comparing intelligence of human being with a artificial thing and equating them, uh, considering ourselves as a natural and considering the machine as a artificial. So how far are they comparable? We, as a living being, is a result of billions and billions of years of evolution in an ever-changing, dangerous environment. And we, not just human being, but all the living being on the earth, they fought for their survival, and then they are what they are right now. Uh, Biochemistry in the smallest part of mouse brain can be much more complex than what an AI has to deal with. AI is a result of very relatively very simple calculations. It might be millions and billions of calculations per second, but still it is much relatively much simpler. It is inputting a set of data and outputting another set of data. So, can we even compare these two entities? Are they really intelligent, or are they simply acting intelligent as a human being? So this is my philosophical point about artificial intelligence. Moreover, coming to the cultural consideration, the perception of AI differs from a region to another. Say, for example, in the case of unemployment, a country having an aging population, say Japan or European countries, it may be very much a welcome thing to delegate all the works to robots and artificial intelligence, so that the old age population may relax and take care of their health. However, it won't be a viable solution in an LDC where there is a threat to their jobs. Similar is the case of MG Narega, where big machines are not used, but the laborers are used. Laborers are there to dig the roads and build the houses, so that they get employment. We have the machines, but still human beings are there to implement the government policies so that everybody gains. Uh, that is the contradiction between one country to the other country, between developing countries, least developed countries, and the developed countries. AI may also introduce a stark inequality, where the rich will be becoming richer because they don't have to employ human beings. They are taking care of all their needs with the machines, as well as the people who are poor. They are left jobless. They are and thus the inequality increases. Coming to the next point, how does it impact the humanity at large? Uh, you must have seen a documentary on Netflix with the name of Social Dilemma. It includes various people from tech giants like Google, Facebook, who had ethical concerns with the way the company was acting, and they left the company because they had the concern that this AI is impacting the cultural diversity and the behavior of people at large, and very few people there are deciding what a person should see in the morning, how a person should behave, which notification they should be given. So all their behaviors are controlled by AI. uh, Other points are, we have already discussed in previous sessions, that AI introduces bias. AI may be said to be a very neutral thing, and it reflects our own biases, and it will vary from country to country depending on the data that the country gives from the people they have. So it will definitely vary. Further, this security concern is also there. Like the poor countries may have a less secure internet system as compared to developed one, and a country like China might attack the vulnerable systems to gain the access and to gain the data control. Um, and the last point I would like to make is how is the AI controlled? Uh, will it be always be controlled by human being? And if not, what should be the checks and balances? Towards the end, I would like to introduce a story from a novel by Dan Brown, with the name of Origin, with a protagonist, Robert Langdon. Uh, um, there is a person who has created a AI system with the name of Winston, and he has planned a ceremony in a museum where he announced that he is going to announce something, and his aim is to gain the largest viewership across the globe. And with the help of Winston, its AI system, he's able to get an assassin to kill himself on the stage, and and the AI system is able to direct each and every individual there with the use of headphone to their respective places. It also enables the assassin to escape the place. It also enables the protagonist, Robert Langdon, to escape and to reach the base of that person who created the AI, to and help him to rebroadcast the whole program. And it had also planned before dying that the Winston, which is the AI, would destroy all the evidences, all the codes that was made that made Winston to perform such activities. So that person is able, even after dying, to control each and everything through its artificial intelligence, and is able to erase all the evidences so that nobody is able to know what all happened. So if this becomes a possibility, uh, it is difficult to say what is ethical, what is not, because a normal human being might not be able to find what all happened. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Prakhar Prakash. If anybody has any point of information or anything to add to what Mr. Prakhar said. Okay, all right. So Mr. Prantik Mukherjee and Mr. Samar Rajput have decided to pass the current sub agenda. I would request Mr. Taing Neka to speak next, please. All right. So in that case, Samar can speak, please.
Okay, so let's just understand AI. So just consider, in a sense, I'm explaining it with the example. So just consider a child of 3 or 4 years old, right? We He learns everything from its surrounding, what he sees, how it has been treated, how he perceive what he sees. So that is what that culture made of. Similarly, AI is like a child. The data which has been provided to him, he reads it and he interprets it and he perceives it. So this is how culture will born. Like if a AI which has been developed in India has a quite a different perception from the AI which has developed in US or any other country. So there might be a cultural differences, but the ideal thing to do to be a AI, to be a a good system, you have to feed him different cultures, feeding him a different kind of information, so that he has a perspective about everything. Because if you fail to feed him a particular kind of perception, or if you did not show him the whole picture of a world, he will have a bias towards these certain things, because he is not knowledgeable about that particular circumstances. Therefore he is not able to interpret that situation, and he will act differently in that situation, which one machine should not. So there's a case of an Israeli, there's an Israeli case where the man on a machine translation write a good morning, but it has been interpreted by the machine as a attack them. So the man was arrested. So what I'm trying to say is, when we are feeding a data to a machine, we should ensure that it has been feed with the information, actually the enough information from all the cultures. Because if you want to create a neutral AI, because we should not let fall in the wrong hands. So if you wanted to AI to be a neutral thing and wanted to help people all over the globe, so we have to feed him each type of information. As previously one of our delegates stated that if there is an AI which is now understand now, if AI which has developed in America, so the data which has been fed to him is for American soil, and whatever the data he has been there, now he has been transported to China or any other country which is underdeveloped or developing. Now he's not able to understand or analyze that scenario, that how he should react to it. So therefore, he, like there should be a federation which has to be found, which actually give him a clear picture about everything. Therefore, in order to the show him the all the cultures, what are the differences, what are the conflicts, because our cultures, our ethics, they are like rainbow colors, they are not black and white. So we have to show him the vibrant colors of the rainbow in order to understand how the world works. Because in order to AI to sustain and create a better place, he has to understand all the cultures, and in order to AI to subsist with the humans, he has to understand all these scenarios. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
All right. Thank you
And
for that. Yes,
uh,
Samar, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
just one more thing. So, and AI has to be like, when we are feeding with him an algorithm, it has to be very reflexive, like or very reflective of the thing. Like it should not be very rigid in its approach. Because if he has been like, if AI exists towards the ages as well, because if there's a AI which has been developed in 90s, now it's to 2020, now the culture differences has been changed. So AI has to be flexible, the algorithm which has been fed to him should be flexible in nature, otherwise he will not able to subsist in the generation gap scenario as well. So it has to be reflexive in that aspect as well. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, I couldn't agree more with you, Samar, because in similar to laws, AI has to keep evolving. Similarly, laws also have to keep evolving as the culture develops, as the society develops. All right. So Mr. Tang Nega has decided to pass the current sub agenda. Uh, Mr. Abhivardhan, if you could guide us forward.
Sure. I would like to confirm. So every delegate has completed his speech, right?
Yes,
Yes,
some of
Kshitij.
them. Yes, some of them have decided to pass the current sub agenda.
Some of them are backed out, but rest of them.
No,
Right,
none of
correct,
them are
correct,
left.
exactly. Some of them are backed out, but rest of them are backed out. Okay. First, I would request the Honorable President to go for his final remarks on the whole day, as well as the two which we have discussed.
Uh, as regard the first issue of audit, which I couldn't give some of my remarks on the ethics committee, uh, unfortunately, our experience has been uh, from a perspective of accounting. Also, today you may have an auditing committee. From any committees you go, there is always this issue whether you can trust even that committee to decide ultimately what they are doing indeed is the right job which they should be doing. So while yes, it could be one layer of safety zone, but it is not the end of all sort of things where ethics committee can be the ultimate this thing. So what I would prefer is that apart from this ethics committee, if there could be another body, which could be a public private partnership, where actually whatever this AI is geared up to do, after it goes through its ethics committee, I think there should be one clearance ultimately from this separate organization, which could be created in order to assess these issues and ultimately give its go by, so that ultimately, a, the ethics committee then remains responsible. B, from an individual perspective, there has been a second level of audit, which also would give some faith to the community or the consumers at large, that ultimately they have done their job. And then, last and not the least, if something goes wrong, definitely the courts are there to take care of all those kinds of issues. So, on the audit and the ethics committee, this is something I would like to do. On the next issue, before these AI programs are doing their jobs and sent it out to, um, for the purposes of commercialization of these I think, all of these programs ultimately should go through some sort of a testing mechanism of at least the 6 months and 1 year or something like that, to to understand that exactly what it was aiming for, has it been graduated to that level, from a perspective to see that whether, like somebody mentioned about culture. Now, if I say that, while it is a 3 4 year old kid, and he has, and you're giving him an AI to understand that whether he's understood the culture, not necessary. So there has to be a period, which should be something known as a lab lab period, which ultimately, we can see how exactly is the output, what are the kinds of things, has it reached to its full potential, is it doing what it was indeed doing, or there is something wrong with it, by testing various data models or parameters before it is launched, to ensure that, it is ultimately a very fair process or a fair, transparent manner in which the AI is supposed to do its job. So, to that extent, I would urge the companies to be self-restrained. Companies to, ultimately, if they are using the data, to that extent, we should know exactly who is this animal and who is this beast before it is let uh, go in the woods. And to that extent, there should be some mechanism. So those are some of my thoughts on issues like this.
Thank you so much. Today we will have an executive summary from the board. Kshitij, I would request you to take pointers from the president. Uh, Now, the session has to be adjourned for tomorrow, so that we get into the informal debate, and we discuss the draft report. Therefore, first let us adjourn the session and let us get for the draft report. Also, tomorrow, along with the draft report, one final resolution, which is the ultimate resolution of the AI General Assembly, outcome resolution, has to be passed by all the delegates who have been attending from the first day itself. In this resolution, all the four agendas will be taken into consideration. So, like so tomorrow, two votes will be happening. Also, the track presentations which we had, they will not go too long. So that's something which is also a matter of consideration, which means that we can start the track presentations lately, but the vote must happen. So delegates, you can prepare accordingly. For all the four agendas tomorrow, we have to pass a resolution. That is important. Suggestions will be taken by from everybody. So, with the permission of the president, we should adjourn the session so that we can go for the informal debate.
Yes, let's go ahead.
So, in consideration with the same, the motion is approved before voting. Those who are in favor, please vote aye. Those who are not in favor, please vote noes. Uh, there are 9 delegates present right now. All of you have to vote. All of you are present and voting. Please go ahead. Kshitij, please count the votes.
5, 6. Eight for us so far.
One person left, not voted yet. Everybody has to vote. Please vote. Sanad is not here, I think so, right? Um,
Uh, yes, I guess. Yeah, I think Shruti is not here. Yeah, Shruti is not here. Shruti has not voted, so I think it's done.
8. Okay, 8 is to 0. The motion successfully passes. The meeting is hereby adjourned, which is that the public meeting 6 shall end now. Uh, Public meeting 7 shall be constituted again, and assembly shall convene on 4th of October 2020 at 10:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Please wait until the recording is stopped. Vote for the draft report has to be completed, so nobody can leave. Thank you so much.